to admit, I didn't realize how like iconic dog walking is in New York City until we actually moved close to New York City and we go down there pretty often. It truly is iconic. It's just so cool. Hello everybody, welcome back to Board Game Buzz today. My name is Carly and today we're going to be showcasing a game that is currently live over on Kickstarter right now. This game is Kings and Queens and it is the newest expansion for Bark Avenue. This expansion, along with the base game Bark Avenue, is produced from Dice Games and I want to give them a special shout out for helping sponsor this video today. In Bark Avenue, you are playing as competitive dog walkers in the heart of New York City. Your challenge is finding the balance between the perfect walk and a steady clientele while trying to make the most money. The everyday events on the streets of New York will keep you on your toes when you go above and beyond to earn tips and learn new abilities. So like I mentioned before, Kings and Queens is an expansion for Bark Avenue, and there is a current crowdfunding campaign going on for this game over on Kickstarter right now. So if you are interested, I will make sure to have all of the links in the description below for this video. I also want to add a little disclaimer that obviously I have the base game set up on the table, but everything in regards to this expansion is a prototype. So all the rules, components, everything is subject to change, so just kind of keep that in mind as well. If you are new to the channel though and you've never seen any of my Kickstarter previews before, typically what I do is I go into kind of a general overview of how this game operates and plays, and then I jump into what I enjoyed about this game and who I feel like this game would be good for. What I'm going to kind of be doing for this preview though is I want to kind of just go into a general explanation of how the base game operates and plays and what you're going to be doing before talking about the expansion, just in case you're not familiar with this game at all, just kind of give you a general idea of what you're going to be doing. So for half a second, we're going to be putting this expansion aside and we're just going to be talking about the base game Bark Avenue. Bark Avenue is a pick up and deliver game where you will be picking up and taking dogs on walks in the heart of New York City. The game is played over a series of rounds as depicted on here on the side of the board, and every single round will kind of proceed as follows. The very first thing everybody's going to do is move this little sun tracker down. Again, this tracks the progress of the game. Whenever you move the sun down, it may trigger certain things. One thing that could happen is an event card is drawn that all say different stuff. When an event occurs, for example, this very first event that we're going to get here is lawn closed. So at the start of your turn, if you are in a park space, you will roll the city dice instead of the park dice, which we'll talk about what that means in a second. But essentially, all this event does is it will just kind of change up the game, change up what's going on, and it will remain in play until a new event card replaces it. Some other events that might occur on this board here is a refresh of the dogs that are available. As you move further down this track, some other things might occur such as surge pricing. So later in the day, owners will pay more tips to get their dogs walked. So essentially this kind of whole section of the board is just triggering stuff that might happen. Now moving on to player's turn, the very first thing you're actually going to be doing is you're going to roll a dice. If you start on a park space, you will roll the park dice, and if you start on a city space, you will roll the city dice. These dice represent what your dogs are up to on your turn. So sometimes they are going to help you move an additional spot. Maybe they're really active, they want you to move. Maybe sometimes they are chasing after a squirrel or a pigeon, so you have to actually start your movement in a particular direction because your dog is running after them, right? There are also blank spaces on this dice, which is essentially just P, nothing really happens. But one of the most important things on this dice are actually these little poop symbols. On the city dice, there's only one poop symbol, but on the park dice, there is a lot of poop. They're way more likely to poop in the park than you are at the city. But what happens with these poop dice is basically represents your dog pooping. And when your dog poops, you actually get to place a little poop token onto that particular dog. Why that's important is because your owners are actually going to pay you some tips. You'll get additional tips if your dog poops, if you do your dog's favorite activity, or if you take a picture with your dog. Those are all things that you will get more money for. Something else to mention is on the park die, there is this golden poop that you can roll, which when that happens, every single one of the dogs that you are walking poops. So that is a really good one that you definitely want to get. I don't think I've ever said poop as much as I have in this video. Now you're going to move on to movement. When you are moving, you are always going to move the exact amount of spaces of your slowest dog. Everybody will have their little own personal board in front of them where you will be slowly picking up dogs. Your little dogs can only go so far though. So if you have a dog that can move 7 spaces and a dog that can move 3, well, you can only go 3 spaces because that's as far as your littlest dog can walk. Since we're talking about dogs, let's actually just take a second and talk about the dog card. So where you see your movement, it's going to be on the upper left-hand corner. It's like a little shoe footprint. That's how far your dogs can walk. It will also show your dog's name. It'll also show your dog's favorite activity, along with if they like to be walked alone or with groups. Down here at the bottom, it shows the price. So that's how much money you will get for walking that dog, along with where their dog is located. So in order to pick up and drop off a dog, you actually have to be on the corresponding neighborhood in order to do that. Something super important though that shows on this little dog tag is requirements. So some dogs don't like to be walked with bigger dogs. They're scared of them. Or some big dogs don't like to be walked with smaller dogs. So you always have to pay attention with not only where you're picking up and dropping off dogs, and if you can potentially reach those points, but also the requirements in regards to the other dogs that you already have on your board. And so after you take your movement, you are now going to do an action based on kind of where you are located. So something that you can do is you can pick up or drop off a dog. Again, you have to be on the corresponding neighborhood in order to do that. When you do start the game, you only start with 2 spaces available to hold dogs, but as the game goes on, you are able to unlock your 3rd spot, which can be really beneficial. When you do pick up a dog for the first time, you're going to put this little footprint token, if I can get it, on their little first space on their board. Something else you can take is a neighborhood action. So again, based on where you land, you can do your dog's favorite activity, which again will give you a token to help fill up that slot on your doggy board. You also can purchase a treat, which treats can be really beneficial because you can use them to bribe your dogs to ignore restrictive attributes. So if you have a really small dog that doesn't like walking with a big dog, but you really want to walk that big dog, well, you can bribe it with a treat, but you do have to purchase the treat beforehand. Something else you can do is you can purchase a coffee, which allows you to actually do an additional action on your turn, and you can use that coffee actually up to 2 times. You can also visit a dog park, which helps wear your dogs out quicker, so you can drop them off quicker, which then you can pick up other dogs quicker. So there's lots of different actions you can do. Basically, everything you're trying to do is just get the most tips, right? Trying to unlock stuff to allow you to get more tips. Once you're done with your main action, then you're actually going to track your progress on your individual player board. Now, this is really, really important. So for every single dog you have, you're going to move that little footprint token up 1 slot, okay? And every single dog has a minimum footprint requirement that's kind of how far they have to go before they're ready to be returned home. So for example, for Mifa here, Mifa has to walk 5 spaces. So in 5 turns from now, that little footprint is going to flip over and it's going to actually show a home symbol on it. Now, when it shows a home symbol and you move, you're still going to track your progress, but you're actually will track your progress backwards. And that means that Mifa is ready to be dropped off, and it has to get dropped off before that little footprint slides off the board. And if it ever slides off the board, that really sucks because you lose out on all of your extra tips or additional stuff you could have gotten. You'll still get the points for Mifa, but the owners won't be happy with you, so they won't give you any extra tips. Something else that I wanted to mention is over here on the side of the board are reviews. So after you drop off a dog or something occurs and happens that meets the requirements for these, you can actually get a review for that, which helps unlock additional kind of bonuses or ongoing stuff on your personal player board. And so that's essentially kind of how the game is going to be operating, or the base game is going to be operating and playing. Collecting dogs, moving, trying to walk them as far as they need to in order to drop them off, and you're trying to take pictures of your dogs, trying to get them to poop, trying to get the most points. And so kind of with that general overview out of the way of the base game, let's go ahead and kind of chat a little bit about the expansion now. In this Kings and Queens expansion for Bark Avenue, basically your little dog walking side business has now turned into a full-blown dog walking empire. As your team grows, you will venture into new boroughs and discover new opportunities to expand your business and upgrade your gear. This expansion primarily offers 2 new modules that you can kind of mix and match into your base game of Bark Avenue. Those 2 modules are the double dog cards and then also the 5 boroughs board. Honestly, those are my favorite types of expansions that just kind of offer new modules, stuff you can kind of mix and match. So we're going to kind of go in and talk about what each of these modules bring, and we're going to start by talking about these double dog cards. So these double dog cards are actually just going to get mixed in to your base game cards, and they will just come out and fill the board as normal. There is a slight difference though in regards to how these operate and how they fill out your board. When you are playing with these and you pick up one of these dog cards, they actually fill 2 of your slots. And the really important part is at the beginning of the game, if you remember, you start the game with 2 slots, okay? But if you get a double dog card, you actually can use it to fill that 3rd slot, even if you haven't unlocked it yet. Each of these dogs on this card each come with like different attributes, different activities that they might like, but they actually do share their movement value and how far they can walk. Something else that they share is when you take a picture of this particular dog, it actually will take both, you can take a picture of both of the dogs at the same time, basically giving you double tips. These double dog cards can also help contribute to your personal goals that you might have throughout the game, along with this review track and the types of reviews that you can get. When these dogs are on your board, you will only use one side to track movement, but you can actually fill up both sides in regards to pooping, pictures, and their favorite activity. And again, because both these dogs come from the same household, there will only be one pickup and drop off location, which can make it really nice because you're able to just get a lot more points from these dogs in a shorter amount of time than the base game dogs. So that's kind of essentially the double dog module, is just adding these double dog cards. But now we're going to talk about the 5 boroughs module. And I'm excited about this one because I really liked it. So the 5 boroughs module, again, it just kind of represents all of kind of like the New York areas. If you are playing with this module, you'll just open up the board and place it anywhere on the table. There will also be a bunch of item cards, or like this item deck, and you will shuffle it up and then reveal 3, placing them beside the board. So you'll have an additional like little worker meeple that will be on here, and every single time you earn a review star, you will take your little worker and you will move it to a new location. Once you move it to a new location, you will then be able to activate or do whatever it says. So let's kind of chat about what each of these locations do. Something important to note is in every single one of these locations, if it is your 5th star, so your 5th and final review star that you place that triggered the action over here, you actually get to unlock a little bonus kind of like an additional thing. I won't go over all of them, but I'll go over a couple. The first area we're going to talk about is the Bronx. In the Bronx, you can peek at the top 3 cards of the event deck, put one on the bottom and the rest back on top in any order. While your helper meeple is in the Bronx, you can also ignore the event card effects. If this is your 5th star, then you can immediately place your walker meeple into any train space. Queens is all about advertising. Instead of placing your star on the review track you just unlocked, you can place the review star on the highest uncovered space up to the number of stars you have unlocked so far. You will get those points showing at the end of the game. Brooklyn is all about shopping. You will place your meeple in the furthest down uncovered space next to the number of stars you have unlocked so far, covering the bonus inside the circle. You will gain that bonus along with all uncovered bonuses above your space. Staten Island is Doggy Day Camp. When you go here, you will discard X number of cards from your choice from the market, where X is the number of stars you've achieved so far. For each solo dog card, double dog card, or dog card with size restrictions, you will collect 1 tip. Upper Manhattan, you will draw 2 hidden gold cards, then discard any 2 of your hidden gold cards. And in Lower Manhattan, you will actually be investing. You will collect 1 of the 3 revealed item cards in the market and then discard the other 2 cards. So very generally, that's kind of what every single location is going to kind of be operating and how it'll be working. I know I just mentioned item cards, so I kind of want to chat a little bit about what these item cards cards are. Primarily where you get these is in this lower Manhattan area, and what these do is you will collect these, and these will give you instant or one-time use abilities. The interesting thing about these though is that you actually will not be paying for them right when you get them. You're actually purchasing them on credit, and so you actually won't pay for them until the end of the game. If you do want to avoid paying for these altogether though, is something that you can do is here at Lower Manhattan, if this is your fifth and final star and you go to place here, you actually can discard your items that you have so you can avoid paying for them at the end of the game. These modules really fit and kind of work into the base game very well, and so because of that, there's really not a whole lot that it actually changes about the base game. It does kind of have a couple extra stuff you have to do in regards to end game scoring though. Like for example, on this Queen's board, you need to make sure you come up here and add these additional tips to your end game score. You will also have to make sure that you subtract any of the costs from the item cards you might have collected that game. And then you're just going to want to double check those double dog cards if you have any of those, and just make sure that those are contributing correctly to your end game points. I did want to briefly mention that there is a solo mode in the base game of Bark Avenue, and that this expansion does fit with that. So there are just a couple minor stuff you might have to change, but you can play the base game solo along with this expansion. All right, so with that out of the way, I hope that kind of gives you a general idea of how the base game operates and plays along with this expansion. I know I mentioned it already, but primarily what this expansion is offering is just a couple modules that's just meant to enhance the base game. And so I think that's the first thing that I kind of want to mention coming into things that I enjoyed about this game and who I would recommend it for is I love expansions that do this, that just offer a couple modules. You can mix and match depending on the players around the table, and it does enhance the base game. Because for me and my family, we've played Bark Avenue a lot. My kids love this game. Addie primarily. I think it's because we just go down to New York so often, and we love looking at everybody walking dogs, and you really do kind of feel that way in this game. You really do feel like you are in New York walking dogs. And I think this expansion just offers good, interesting things. I enjoyed the double dog cards. I think I liked the other modules a little bit more, which we'll talk about in a second. But I did like these. I liked how right off the bat you could actually utilize that third space, because sometimes it would take, at least for the games that I played, it would kind of take a little bit before I could even unlock that third space. And so it kind of just felt like wasted dead space, and I wished I could get to it quicker, and I just couldn't. So I really liked how this introduced that ability that you could actually use that third space if you were able to get your hands on these double dog cards. And the double dog cards can really bring in a lot of points, because there's only one pick up and drop off location, but a potential to get six additional tokens for that one card. And especially, when you don't have that third slot unlocked and you actually can utilize it, it just helps push the game forward quicker at the beginning of the game, in my opinion. So these cards are really valuable. But what I really, really liked about this module is this 5 boroughs board. I really loved this. Like, after playing the game, I remember thinking, like, I would never not play with this. Like, in my opinion, it just made the reviews that much more interesting, because I mean, I liked the reviews in the base game. It wasn't something that I actively worked super hard for, honestly, though. Maybe I was playing the game. Maybe I've been playing the game wrong. I don't know. It was just kind of something that felt more tacked on, kind of. But with this board, it makes it a lot more interesting, because everything on here you want, right? Everything on here just basically gives you more points. So it's kind of a tricky puzzle of, okay, when should I try to get that review so then I can move here? And especially when to hold out, because some of these locations you actually want to wait until you've placed all of your stars, or a lot of your stars, so you actually get more. Like, I know Queens, that's kind of, in my games, that's kind of the place that everybody's kind of fighting over, is this Queens area. Because if you do it right at the beginning when you've placed your first star, well, you'll only get 3 additional points. But if you do it when you've placed your 4th or even your 5th star, that's 7 extra points. And so everybody's kind of fighting over these locations, just trying to get the most possible points. Another really great spot on this board, obviously it introduces the the items, which I liked, which we'll talk about in a second. But I really liked this doggy day camp because when you go here, it kind of makes the top of the board slightly more interesting, because as the game goes on, if you are completely maxed out on dogs, it doesn't really matter what dogs are at the top of the board. It just doesn't. But with this doggy day camp here in Staten Island, the dogs that are on the top of the board actually do matter, because if you come here, you can actually discard X amount of dogs. So if you come here with your 4th star, you can actually discard 4 dogs from up here, and then you're able to get points from that if those dogs meet these requirements that you are discarding. So it just kind of made this top of the board more interesting as well. And then I really liked the items that they brought, because I think that was something else that as I was playing, I remember sitting back thinking, yeah, the base game kind of lacked that too. I loved how these items just kind of give you something different from other players around the table. I'm always a fan of when games or expansions do that. I want to be doing something than somebody else. I want to have a special power. I want to have a special ability. And then it adds to that replayability. Honestly, everything about this expansion just builds off, and it just kind of feels like it expounds the base game. You don't have to relearn the base game. You don't have to change a bunch of stuff or kind of dive into stuff in different ways. It just kind of adds a couple more stuff, which if you already have the base game and you really enjoy it, I think that this will help enhance your game. Now, if you've never played Bark Avenue, I know when I first started looking into this game, I've had this game for about a year now, I think, and my kids really like this game. Pull it out all the time. We play it all the time. When I first started looking into it, though, I was kind of in between Bark Avenue and Dog Park, which is like another kind of dog walking game. 2 very different games. But now I actually have had the opportunity to play both games, and I personally recommend Bark Avenue over Dog Park. And I think the reason why is because Bark Avenue, well, it's pick up and deliver, and I love pick up and deliver games. I just think that's fun. But I really like what you are actually doing more than Dog Park, because Dog Park is like very, very procedural. So you'll go through and everybody will collect their dogs at the same time. Then everybody will walk their dogs. Then everybody will return home. I like how everybody is kind of on different schedules in this game, and everybody is trying to maximize their actions. So I think the actions in this game are just a lot more interesting than Dog Park personally. So because I know that's a question that I actually get asked a lot, and it was a question that I asked personally before purchasing this game, as I looked into Bark Avenue and Dog Park, and I was between the 2 for a long time. So in case you are kind of in the same boat as me and you kind of don't know which one to pick, I personally prefer Bark Avenue. And now with this expansion, I really feel like Bark Avenue is the stronger game, in my opinion. I really like how you have to kind of like manage your time and manage your actions. It's just a lot more interesting. And this expansion just kind of I don't want to say fixed, because I think that's the wrong word. I don't think there's anything wrong with the base game, but I just keep coming back to the word, I guess, enhance. It really does just enhance the base game. It kind of brings in a couple and introduces a couple stuff that I didn't feel like the base game was necessarily missing. But now after playing with this, it was like, oh yeah, it does make it more interesting. It does kind of give you a couple extra things to think about. Like I said, I think my favorite thing is the secondary board. I really did like the double dogs too, but I really loved this board. So kind of coming into like who I would recommend this game for, I think if you have played Bark Avenue and you like it and you enjoy it, especially if you play it a lot, I think it's great to have these extra modules to, again, kind of mix and match, kind of change up your game. There also are not very many pick up and deliver games in general, and I personally love pick up and deliver games. I think it's like a really underrated mechanism, and I think that this does a really good job with that mechanism. The theme is obviously adorable, and if you like this theme, like, it comes through in the gameplay. It really does. Like, if you are a dog lover, you have dogs at home, or just love walking dogs, if you are a dog walker, I think that the theme really will resonate with a lot of people. I know this is one that I personally have introduced to people just because I know they like dogs, and it's always gone over well. So if anything that I mentioned sounds interesting to you, again, I want to kind of reference you over to the current crowdfunding campaign that is live for this expansion. I will make sure to have all of the links and information in the description below, so you can just go ahead, hit that, and head over to that crowdfunding page. Again, I want to give a special shout out to Paradise Games for helping sponsor this preview for you today. And if you enjoyed this preview and you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, it means so much if you could do that. Really helps support us in everything that we're doing over here. But until next time, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you later.